Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Just doing a sound check, making sure. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. It's okay.
Wait, see what Chris is going to type back here in a second.
Okay.
Something keeps flashing on your screen over here, and it's driving me crazy.
What?
Like it pops up and just something just kind of flies out here of the corner, and then goes back, and I'm like, what is that?
Really? I don't know what that might be.
I thought it was this. What is all this?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. That just came up this morning.
The Best Buy Easy Replenish service to activate. Oh, that's right. Somehow, like when your thing gets low on ink, it'll tell Best Buy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't trust it.
All right, so.
I mean, you can do it.
I don't want to do that. How do I get rid of that?
Down.
Is that it?
I'll just click it out. I don't know. It might pop back up.
Okay. Did I tell you that the networking stopped working? Like
you said something. I don't know what that. Apparently, that's. I thought about it afterwards because of the way that because your laptop is so transient. I'm not sure there's a good way to. We might be able to do it the other way, but
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's really actually worked out really well, just to use Drive. That's fine.
Yeah, which is slow, but
yeah, it's a little clunky, but it's not slow once it's happening. Okay, I need to.
Okay, go ahead and hit mute there.
Which one?
It's
right
the top
here?
one that's kind of bouncing. Just hit the little.
This.
grab some headphones so I can hear you.
Okay. And I'm streaming right now, so we should. Right. Am I making noise? Okay. A couple minutes. Wait for people to get on. Here we are. We're going to start in just a couple minutes. Let's see. Get a good view of the office. All right, we're going to get started. I had to ask because I wasn't sure how many of you guys were on, and I guess a lot of you are there, so that's really, really good. First of all, welcome everyone. I am so honored to be working with such an amazing and dedicated group of artists. You guys really stuck with this workshop. It was a lot. I know it was a push. A couple of the assignments are, definitely a push, but that's my job. That's what I'm here for. You guys really stayed and engaged in it over time, so that's really, really wonderful to see. It's very inspiring for me, and it makes me want to create more and more for you guys. It's really wonderful. So how we're going to run this today, I have picked out several pieces from each of the assignments, and I'm going to talk about them individually a little bit. I'm not going to be able to talk about everyone's pieces, and obviously there are just too many of them, but I do want you to keep in mind that a lot of us, we're all kind of making the same mistakes, generally speaking. And a lot of what I'm going to say, if it's not specific to your particular piece, it's you can apply it to your own work. So, but if you have a specific question, please type it in the chat, and we'll get to it. The questions are going to be relayed to me. So, one of the things I really think about with the mark making, it's in a way unique with pastels, because we're picking up these sticks that feel in a way like a drawing instrument, but at the same time they feel like a brush. So it's kind of this kind of perfect melding of that. I also think that the mark making is instrumental in helping us have our own individual style. I think we all kind of want that, but you can think about that mark making like cooking. At first, you sort of need a recipe, but it's really the way that the ingredients are combined that make the dish particular and unique to the cook. So that's kind of what we're all kind of dealing with here. And And we want to, as people that are really good cooks, I can't do this, but people that are really good cooks, they are able to figure out the ingredients and be really creative, and they don't need a recipe. But when you first start out, you kind of need a recipe. So, and I also, the other intent of this workshop was to really bring consciousness to the marks that we are making. Because I know for myself, when I get stuck or tired or just plain old bored with what I'm doing, I just start making marks to make marks. And I don't do it very intentionally. So just recognizing a little bit more, all of the exercises were designed to really bring up front, what am I doing? What am I up to? And it's real obvious in these, what everyone's up to. So in my pairs, after I watched you guys do them, I realized that most of my pairs were definitely a combination of different marks together. So I was a little bit more intentional in the landscape in a couple of them where they were all stippling or all strokes. And that was good to see too. My pairs were kind of a mix. And so however that came to you during the workshop, it's great. So it's cool. So let's just talk a little bit about some of these pairs, because I think they're really, really wonderful. So this is Anne. This is her set. Looks like it's on. If you're online, just let us know. It looks like it's maybe Color Fix. Maybe it's Pastel Matte. But what I really like about your pairs, Anne, is that they have a lot of character and gesture. The way that you've drawn them, they're like this guy's got a little pooch here, and it's really got a lot of liveliness and a lot of life to it, and that's really fun to see. I also think that the color combinations that you used are very, very interesting. A lot of you're using a lot of neutrals in here, but I think doing it in a way that still they still have a lot of vitality. Like right here, you've let some brighter or a little bit different color, the red pop through, and layered with this looks like thicker pastel. And this one's really, I really, really love this one. It's really beautiful. And then you've also done some cool things. This is a blue pear. So you've taken it outside of the representational realm. And the set that you've got here as a whole is really satisfying. When I did my series of 100 versions of the little landscape scene, the 100 variations, sometimes there was one that didn't quite as strike me, but as a whole, they were stronger and they were interesting. And just to be able to look at the differences was really informative for me. I also think that you got a nice quality of light on a lot of these too. Oops. Well, let's go back to this. And so, yeah, really, really nice job. Really interesting set. I really love these. And then let's move to Danielle's here. So now, I just love the difference. I mean, look, I just love seeing that. You give 100 people this assignment, and we're gonna get 100 different kinds of sets of pairs. It's really neat. Danielle, I like what you did in terms of the point of view. So you're looking down and at the background. So you mix that up really nice, and that makes for in terms of the whole set, it makes it like really pretty dynamic. I love this one with the dark here. It's great. And these have a little bit of a, I'm going to use the word graphic feel to them. And partly I think it's the strong contrasty color that you have chosen overall. And the fact that a lot of them have a very strong defined outline. But what I like about, let's just talk about again as a set, they're consistent in that way. So if I was familiar with your work over time, I would start to know, oh, that's Danielle's, because it's very distinctive, and that's really cool. And the color palette that we had only so many. I made you guys stick to a limited palette, and that right away gives you kind of a leg up on them all having a thread or a look that's consistent. So that's really cool. One thing that I don't know how intentional it was, but I just want to point it out. Several of these backgrounds, you sort of went around the form. You're kind of doing this number, and here you kind of filling in the background around it. Normally I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't encourage that. I would want just let your marks actually sort of come into the form and play lost and found edges, and I wouldn't want to do that number. But somehow in yours, because they have that sort of little bit of a graphic quality, it sort of works. It does work, not sort of. So I like them. Yeah, they're really cool. Like in this one, they've got this graphic feel, but yet I have a good sense of light and shadow and form. You've got a nice little highlight, cast shadow, real strong. So they're really interesting. I like them. Okay, guys, got any questions? All right, so now I'm going to move down. I'm going to move down to Doug's. I'm going to look at this one first. Okay, Doug, I really appreciate the creativity that you and the playfulness and the energy that went into these, and the very distinct differences in each one. It's really a really nice exercise. This one's, oops, what happened there? This one's got this kind of almost Manet kind of feel to it. This one's a real softness and soft colors. This one's kind of floating there. It doesn't have a cast shadow, and somehow it's kind of interesting and it works. And then this one's got a very strong sense of light and form, and it feels really, really solid. And I even feel the little the little planes on the pear itself. It's really neat. And then these guys, boy, these are really, really fun. And certainly not something that I had in mind for you guys, but it's really fun to see where you took it, and even popping in this kind of interesting background here. It's really, really, really good work. Now, I want to go up to your very creative, Doug. It's really fun. These were really, and you went even further with the, just kind of different applications of the pastel and different modes in these. It's really, really fun. And so I'd love to see that in the mix there. That was great. Really great. Yeah. Okay. And no questions? Do we have any questions yet? I'm feeling all alone, so you guys better ask some questions. Yeah, see, I'm in my office. This is my little office that I spend way too much time in. Okay, let's talk to Elizabeth. Here, these are...
No questions as of yet.
No questions as of yet.
Everybody is watching. Everybody's on it.
Okay, you guys better ask some questions, though. Okay, so... Elizabeth, these are really nice. They're so rich and moody and yummy, and you've done a lot of that, the same kinds of things that I was talking about before, different points of view, different lighting situations. You know, the variety that we can get in just a simple pair, it's just so infinite. It's just amazing. And yeah, I really think that these are very, very nicely done. It looks like you have a wide variety of kinds of pet. It looks like some hard ones and some soft ones. Really, really nice. I love the quality of light on this one. I also love this one very much. This dark kind of neutral in the pear and this foreground, and then this bright glowing light behind it. That's really strong and really interesting. And I'm going to give you a little kudos here for not putting a bright highlight on this. It could have been tempting to do that, but I actually think that this is quite a bit stronger, in a more just more with not that fancy highlight. It's one of those times when less is more, for sure. It's very, very nicely done. Okay, and then Linda. These are beautiful as well. Really beautiful variety of kinds of marks. They feel really expressive, and to me, it looks like these were quite effortless for you. That might not have been the case. Oftentimes for me, people will say that about my work, and I'm like, oh boy, I had to gut that one out. But these do not look like it. They look like you just had a wonderful time, and they were very joyfully created. So that really comes across to me in these. I love, for instance, these two little marks here, like boom, 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 for the highlights. Really nice. And here, this lovely glowing underside for the reflected light, and then boom, this little highlight here. And then here, you've used this variety of color for underneath here in the reflected light. And I like how this one's kind of tipping in. It looks to me, and I was thinking about this when I created mine. I wanted them all to sort of dance with one another. So you kind of tipped this one in, tipped this one in. These are a little more straight up. So you've created a whole like set that are related to one another but different. It's very nice, nicely done. Love this little squiggly line here. It's beautifully done. I like that it's light over here and a little dark here. Same thing here. The difference in color on either side of the pear. It's real nice. Good job. And here's Suzanne's. And these are on the red color fix. And again, you know, the nice richness that you're getting. Suzanne, it's really nicely done. It's lots of layering I can see, and playing around with the placement of the pear. That's really fun. This is really fun. A couple of these get to be outside of what I think of as a pear. Like this one kind of loses its feeling of a pear, but it's still really, really beautiful. And here too, I love this one also. It's this reflected light. It's really neat. And I think the strong part about these is just the richness of the texture that you're achieving. And that's really, you know, something that I'm wanting to get in a lot of areas in my paintings. I want to have complexity in those layers, and you're certainly achieving that here. So that's really, really nice. So good job. Really good job, Suzanne. And this is, I'm not sure I'm gonna say your name right. I hope Vivian. Is it Vivienne? Okay, I think these are really cool too. Now these really have the distinct looks, like the stippling, and each one feels really, really, really distinct to me in the color, and just the whole. Each one has a different sort of attitude, and that's really neat. And I would encourage all of you really to put these up in your studio. I know I have the luxury of a really great dedicated space, but even if you don't, if you can find some room to tack these up so that when you're working on something else, you can use these ideas. That was my other big deal, is I really wanted you guys to be able to have these as, ready reference. Like, oh, well, this would look really cool on the landscape, or I can do a still life, and I'm going to use these color combinations and these mark making combinations, these layers, because you may not remember exactly what colors you used, but you're going to have a good idea. And I know I have a pretty good, motor memory for the marks, and I also have a pretty good idea of what colors that I've used and which brands. Once you get that mileage in, that's why we get the mileage in, so that we can be super familiar with all our tools, and then they're just, really fun and easy to use. So, but we need to put that mileage in. We need to put that time and study and that discipline in, so that we can, when we go up to the easel, when we approach our painting, we can get into that easy flow much more quickly, because we're not any longer struggling with, oh my gosh, what colors, what kind of strokes, what do I do here for a soft edge, what do I do here for a hard edge. We have that under our hands. Okay, so now we are ready to move on to the landscape. So let's see. I'm going to go up here and up. Uh-oh. Here we go. And I'm going to open them. Yay, it worked. I love it when you get a new little technology thing and it works out. Okay, so this is Deborah's landscapes. I love these, Deborah. I love the variety that you got in these as well. In terms of, well, especially in the marks, they're really, they're pretty distinct. There's a couple of, it was hard. This was harder. It was harder for me to get, it was harder for me to make really clear distinctions in the marks in the landscape. And, well, okay, we're dealing with a much more complex composition. It's also, somehow, when it's this one pair, it's like Doug's was a good example, because I'm sure he wasn't always, he was thinking cardinal, he wasn't thinking pair anymore, he was just thinking this shape, and it's a certain shape, it's a certain color, certain value. And when there's something about going out in the landscape, we suddenly, oh, it's a tree, it's the sky, it's a lake, and it's real easy to get very objective about everything, instead of that mindset of just looking at it as if you were a Martian. And I always say this to students: think about everything you're painting like you've never seen it before ever in your life. Like, is it though you were a Martian and you were plopped down on the earth and you don't know what a single thing is. You don't know what a tree is. You don't know what a flower is. You don't know anything. And that's sort of the orientation that makes it easier for us to paint. Yet at the same time, having some idea of it's sort of paradoxical, right? Because then when you go to paint a tree, it is sort of helpful to think about, is it deciduous? Is it a pine? Is it? So we're taking those ideas and kind of putting them together, but we kind of have to first look at everything with an innocent eye. And that's hard because we've been, I don't know, I've been around a long time, so it's sometimes hard. But these are great. These are really fun. I love this dark, moody one. And this one's really fun too. The pointillism. Nice soft edges in these. I like that you mix the colors up. Here you're using more strokes. These are nice big direct marks. So a couple of these, like this one and this one, the mark making feels pretty similar, right? But you've mixed up the color, and so it works. And there were no big rules. But yeah, but this is again a great thing to have around in the studio and refer to. It's really nice. And I know some of you were saying that these were hard. That it was hard to get them all done. But I do encourage you to really embrace the idea of lots of mileage and lots of repetition. And that's how we get good. I'm working on the next workshop, and it's called Trees, Painting Trees in Pastel, Study and Exploration. And so it's both study and exploration. And in it, while I was filming some of it, one of the things I'm doing is the different types of tree species. And some of the species of trees I'm not as familiar with. But then I got to the pines. I'm from the Northwest. And I got to the pines and I'm like, oh man, I got this. This was so slick. Really easy for me. And fun and just a joy. So, that repetition, I could feel that repetition. I could feel it in me. And so it's really important. So I know sometimes it gets to be a drag. But I highly encourage repetition. Okay, let's talk about someone else.
I was asking a question.
Yep.
You said you demoed 4 different marks. Should all of them be somewhere in a painting?
That's a really good question. And not necessarily. My particular style, if you will, incorporates a pretty broad range of types of marks. My intent for the workshop was not necessarily that you would do that you would incorporate all the kinds of marks in every painting that you do. But my intention was for you to be really conscious of what it is you're doing and why and when. So I hope that answers the question. Okay. So this is Diane's, and I don't know why that's there. Let's see. Oh, I know why that's there. I'm sorry, Diane. This is there because I brought your image in as a screenshot, so I can't get rid of that. And it's covering this one, which I kind of like. Sorry. But yours are kind of a little bit an example, Diane. I think that a lot of your marks are kind of similar. The way you put the marks down is kind of similar, and this one's a little bit different, and this one right here, this one's a stippling, it's a little bit different, but these feel a little bit similar, and that's okay. The colors and the lighting and all of that, they're really neat, and they're totally different in each one, And so that's really cool. But yeah, so this is an example of just, I think that, and I did this in mine too, because I felt like mine, there were a few that were like, oh, I did the same thing. And it's fine. And this may be really comfortable in the way you want to put the marks down. And they're very nicely done. Very nicely done. All right, let's talk about this one. This was Linda's. And these, you know, so what I feel about, these are really neat. They're really lots of contrast, and really, I like how you just made these, all of this is super simple. You super simplified these. They're really neat. This one's a little softer. This one's got the stippling. But, you know, some of these are kind of similar in the marks, but again, a little bit, you know, but different in the colors. Whoops. Different in the colors and the just the lighting situations. But they're really beautiful. They feel real direct and bold and effortless. And, you know, simple. That's good. And Margaret. These are nice, Margaret. I like these too. And again, you guys, if I'm not showing your particular pieces, know that I did, in fact, look at every single submission. I spent, and I really appreciate you guys submitting, and I will comment on every single one. There's just a few that I haven't commented. I will get around to that. But no, just because your piece isn't on the critique today doesn't mean that I didn't think it was, it's not that it was not worthy of being highlighted today. I just don't have, we just can't do it. But yeah, Margaret, these are fun. And yours are like, okay, so you got a little bit different here. This is a little bit softer, then you got the stippling. This is a little bit more direct, larger strokes. This gets to be a little bit softer, a little bit more glazing. This one looks like a nice combo. This one looks also kind of combo. You even got some little swirly marks back here. I'm not sure I'm going to buy that, but one thing I do have to say about this swirly thing is when I was working as a freelance illustrator very early on in my career, I did a style that was pastel pencils. I used Carbothello pencils, and I built a texture on every single shape, had a little swirly pattern on it. So I'm not knocking the swirly pattern, but I think that it would need to appear at least in a couple more places to have it have a thread that kind of makes it work all together. These are nice. Yeah, really nice set. And I know you didn't finish it. That's okay. No big deal. Yeah, it was hard. You know, I know it was hard to make yourself do it different, you know, do it differently every single time. Okay, Mark, these are great. You did a good job in varying the marks. They're really strong differences between them. That's really neat. What I think that's kind of interesting and amazing about yours is your color palette, with the exception of this one. And of course, this one you popped in the red tree. It's pretty similar. These are all fairly similar. This one's got a different kind of mood to it. But even though you did not rely on the color palette to get those distinctions. So that's pretty admirable. So I think that was good. And you know, again, you guys, it's all about just, am I conscious of what I'm doing? Because we do stuff out of just habit. We do stuff out because we're bored or we're frustrated. A lot of times it's frustration. And we just start like kind of slinging away at it without like really knowing why. And so a lot of this workshop is just knowing why, and or at least being conscious of why. We might not exactly know why, but yeah, but the mileage is going to get you there. That's good. Really good. These are nice. All right, so now we will move on to the Degas. Okay. I want to leave a little bit of time for questions. Okay. Open. There we go. Now, wasn't this a great assignment? I must say, I think it was a great assignment, even though I gave it. I was really happy to do it. And I have a confession about this assignment, and maybe I alluded to it in the lesson, maybe I didn't, that I had to do it 3 times. So my version that you see is that my 3rd pass, not of that image. First I started with I did 2 different, so I did 3 different paintings, and I started with a really complicated dancer scene, and I was just blowing it. I really worked at getting the drawing, and I gridded out my paper and got it the right proportion and gridded it out, and I just was not getting it. And it was okay, and my assistant was like, yeah, it looks great, it looks great. I'm like, no, it doesn't look great. So this was a big challenge, and I consider myself, I spent years and years as an illustrator, and I draw the figure, and I spent many years in studios drawing, life drawing. So I consider myself a good draftsman. But it was hard. So that being said, you guys did great. You really great. The drawing on this one, Jeanette, is beautiful. She feels so solid. She feels so there. So and the mark making that you developed in it, it's, I feel her flesh and blood, and the volume of her. It's really strong, and the beautiful texture that you got back here. So really nice job. So kudos. Great. And Julia, yeah, same here. Nice drawing. I feel the solidity of her, her form. Some nuance in the color. It's really very nice. I like that your use of the line. It's a stronger line here on her breast, and along here on the tub, but then more of a delicate line out here. And here I see that you've kind of restated the line. That's great, and you left it, and that's fine. It's beautiful. We want to see that. So this is, and the color that you've got in here, these layers are really nice as well. So super good job. And let's see. Susan, same thing. Great job on the drawing. And you did a nice job, and the hand is simple, her silhouette is simple. You kept it really, the drawing real simple, and nice mark making and getting these skin tones. I just found it fascinating to do this assignment. And I also found it really liberating, because we know this is not going to be something, there's no pressure. I had pressure because I was doing it for a lesson for you guys, but there's no pressure in terms of, and maybe you guys felt, I don't know, maybe you guys feel pressure that you want it to be good when you submit it, and I can understand that. I guess I would feel that same way, but on the other hand, you're not going to sell it, that it's really just for your own education and your own study. And so in that regard, just no pressure, and just really just sheer enjoyment of, studying and observing what Degas did. And it just really gave me a really fresh, renewed appreciation for what he did, and just how every move that he made, he did everything very intentionally. And that was one of the other reasons I chose him, and also, of course, that he was a pastelist. So, so great. You guys, so many of them. There's so many that were really, really great. And here's Oots. This is, the one that I did. And this was hard, just her leaning over, getting her torso right, and getting her standing upright, getting her feet the right angle. And so this one's really nice. I feel like you did a great job with the color on this. It's real vibrant, it's real luminous, and I really like how you handled the hair. It's very simple. So beautiful, beautiful job on this one too. All right. I do think on all of mine included, there were some drawing things that could have been better, but that was not the focus of this assignment. The focus was on the marks, and what did he do to create his piece, and how did he build them. So great job. Okay, and lastly, we're going to talk about the objects. I know this was not the happiest thing for everyone. Just picking a whole, a big sheet of paper and using it for one object. I always get these big groans when I give this assignment at a live workshop, like, "Oh, you're kidding, do I have to?" And people even try to sneak by me and use half a sheet, or do it a little differently. But I've always insisted, no, you're going to love it. Because it really gives us that opportunity to get in there and use your whole arm to make a stroke, and rarely do we do that. And it also forces us to really play with the edges a little bit more, and make decisions about the background quickly. So I think it's a super good exercise. Danielle, I think you did it twice, because this is big, right? I think this is on a full sheet of Colorfix paper, or a full sheet of paper. So good for you. I'm really happy that you took that to heart. It's really great. Do you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
This is a Degas related question.
Okay.
What kind of pastels was Degas? Was he using hard, soft? It kind of looks, from their opinion, they're using hard pastels mostly.
Yeah.
How did he make those lacy ballet dancer outfits?
Yeah, I know.
That's two questions.
Yeah, right. I'm not sure about that. I don't know, and I don't know if we can know. I'm sure that some of the brands are really been around a long, long time. It may have been that he may have even made his own, because it is just pure pigment with a small bit of binder and water rolled into sticks. So he may have made his own. So that'd be something to investigate. But yeah, some of those dancers had some pretty detailed lacy things going on. But if I know for myself, if I want to really get in there and get some detail, it's possible to do with even some soft pastels. It's just, if you're, you have a lot of facility with, he could probably do just about anything with any of the pastels. It's all about, well, you guys are, I'm sure, finding out, it's all about sort of mediating your touch, I'm always advocating as light a touch as you can get. And then, then there are times when, you need to get in there with a lot more pressure. So if you have a really soft pastel, you can get it to do those things. You just have to change up, your pressure and the velocity of the stroke. So there's a lot of that's going on too. Okay, Daphne. This is nice. Yeah, really nice. I just love the boldness of this, and the color is great. I love the background is super neutral, and the blue of the bottle, it's really dynamic. And you did it nice and simply. You didn't, it looks like you've got, kind of a lot of product on there in a certain way, but in another way, you've put these marks down, boom, 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 and let them be. It's good. Now, drawing-wise, again, I could pick on you with what's going on here. It looks like this bottle has got some kind of unusual shape up here, that it's not just an ellipse, but it's neither here nor there, so I don't know. And so that becomes a little bit of an ambiguity for the viewer. And, that's the kind of thing that I would kind of want to make clear. I do like very much that this edge, this leading edge is harder, and then back here you've given me a little lost and found edge, definitely telling me that this is in the background. So that's nicely done, very nicely done. I like the background. It looks like it's near a window or something, but, very diffused lighting, really pretty. But it's a nice job on that. Okay, and Diane, this just has a really interesting mix of realism, and also it's you've got a kind of loose painterly background, so that's nice. Again, like ellipses, I'm gonna just pick on you just a little bit. I think this drawing wise, but then again, I'm looking at this little ceramic candle votive thing. It could be not exactly, perfect ellipse. So I'm not sure. In this kind of case, I think that there's a funny thing with painting little objects like this. It's almost like you don't want to pick something that's so unusual, because if it's really unusual, then something like this comes up. Oh, well, maybe it is outside the norm. So that's just a matter of picking and choosing with a lot of experience, I guess. But you're definitely getting nice glowing of that candle. I painted an object, a candle at one point, and I really had a tough time getting the values right so that candle really looked like it was lit and glowing. So good, really, really nice job on that. And I also like your little highlights. Boom, boom, not too much. Kept it simple. It's great. Yep.
Had a request if you could. Somebody was wondering if you were going to be doing a series on painting glass between this ceramic one and the last one in the blue glass. I think they're feeling.
Oh, like a lesson or a workshop, or?
She said series. Linda was asking, will Marla do a series on painting glass?
Oh boy.
Sounds like a request.
Yeah, it sounds like a request. Well, that's a good idea, because in painting different materials like metal and glass, and I would refer you to there's a YouTube video that I painted a little blue glass bowl. So I have a couple things. There's a white ceramic pitcher that I painted. So there's a couple quick YouTube videos that I've painted a single object, and I was really kind of focusing on that. Just, what is it made of and how can I convey that in pastel? So you could check those out. I don't have any plans at the moment for any such lessons, but I'll keep it on the back burner. definitely. Yeah, there's so many things to paint and so many things to explore. So it's really tough. And I want to bring you guys the thing that's gonna help you out the most. I just wanted to say one more thing, Diane, about the cast shadow. Your cast shadow is a little dense, and I would maybe let yourself play with these edges a little bit more and get a little bit more reflected light into the cast shadow, so it doesn't end up looking, you don't want it to end up looking kind of cut out. It doesn't, but if this had been mine, I probably would have brought a little bit more color, a little lighter value, especially out here. Out here, in here, you could let it be dark, right? You know, especially where the object is meeting the tabletop. But it looks really good. Looks really good. Okay, and here's Linda's. So
Debbie was asking a question about that shadow.
Yep.
Should all cast shadows have a hard edge?
No.
Kind of answered that.
No. It depends on the kind of light. So if it's more diffused light, a cast shadow is going to have a softer edge. Also, it's going to have the edge it's going to be softer as it moves away from the light source. So yeah, it really depends on the kind of light. It depends on what the cast shadow, what it's sitting on. So yeah, it can be different. It's definitely something to pay attention to and play with in our pieces. Okay, so here's Linda. All right, Linda, you've got 2 objects in here. So, but that's okay. I really like how you handle the bottle. You know, there's some little drawing things. I think the ellipse up here, why I picked this is I really like the simple direct marks that you used to paint the bottle. These can be challenging and a lot to bite off. So I think you did a nice job. It feels real expressive and great. So nice job on that. Interesting background. I probably would have brought a little bit more of this color of the background, maybe inside the bottle a little bit, so that it feels a little more transparent. One idea, but yeah, good job. It looks like you used a whole sheet of color fix, or maybe it's a half sheet. I don't know. All right, and then Susan, here's your bell. Really nice, and I saw in your comments that this is an object that has a lot of sentimental meaning to you, and that's always so. What I think about that is that can be tough, because when we get really attached to something, we get, oh, it's got to be perfect, or we want to make it this or that, and so sometimes those things that are most dear to us are most difficult to paint. Like, you know, if you're like trying to paint a portrait of your grandchildren or something, those kinds of things can be really difficult because, you know, there's a lot more pressure. So I think you did a really nice job on this. Your ellipses look pretty good. I like how you've got some soft edges over here. I love that the color in it. This is, you know, some interesting nuanced color. You could have played a little bit more with the background. You went a little easy does it on yourself with the background. It's kind of glazy. But again, you know, I think that you're really focusing in on the object. I might have tried to even you know, crop in on it like that, something like that, if it had been mine, so that I, you know, really just focus just on this. You really didn't even need as much background as you got in it, I don't think. But it's really cool, really, really cool. Okay, so that's wrapping up the part of the critique part of the workshop that I have, and if you guys have some questions, please, you know, this is the time. This is the time to do it. I did want to just talk to you guys about what I do have coming up next, and that is the Trees workshop. It's Trees in Pastel, Study and Expression. I'm getting some of the videos completed, and I'm really, really excited about it. It's just going to be so in-depth, and of course we all, you know, if you paint the landscape at all, you know, you got to paint trees. There are going to be 7 assignments in this next one. And I might even add an 8th. I'm not sure. I'm kind of really, really tempted to add an 8th assignment. So we'll see. But we will be providing the materials list right away for you guys as soon as I make that decision, so that you can order your materials early and you'll be all set. Because I know some of you live in places where it's not easy to get some of the materials ahead of time. So that is it. Do we have some questions? And I just want to say how appreciative I am of all of you and all the hard work. I know that it was a lot of work, a lot of push, and I'm just always just so humbled by everyone's hard work and you know, just being part of pastelpaintinglessons.com, and I love how in this online workshop setting everyone really interacted and encouraged one another. It was really fun to see. So this is what we're going to be doing lots more of. All right, is that it? Do we have questions or no?
There's a conversation about paper.
Okay.
You get lots of questions about paper.
Yeah.
Pastel matte, UART, Colorfix, can they all be underpainted with alcohol or turpentine?
Okay.
Also, it seems that you only use sanded paper. Is that true? A true statement?
Yes, that is a true statement.
Why would you use that so much? It just seems so smooth. So anyway, lots of questions about paper.
Okay, why would it? Okay, what seems so smooth? The sanded paper or pastel matte?
Pastel matte.
Oh, okay. All right. I am now just absolutely addicted, in love with pastel matte. And yes, it is smooth. However, if you haven't tried it, you need to try it, because it does something really amazing. It feels super smooth and like, oh, it's not even going to grab onto that pastel. But it does grab onto those marks in a really particular, actually very, very strong manner. Put a mark down and holds that mark. And it doesn't really let you, you know, move it around nearly as much as, say, Colorfix or UART. It just grabs it. And so it makes for a very direct and kind of authentic look to the marks. And I love that about it. It's not to say you can't do some blending. You can, and you can layer, but your blending is really relegated more to putting one mark over the next, or a layer over, you know, a thin layer and a thicker layer. You can't really rely on the finger blending thing with pastel matte, and that's one of the reasons I love it. I just love it. I also love UART and Pastel Premier. I painted on Wallace for years and years, and of course that's not really available any longer. Colorfixes, I'm a big fan of Colorfix. That's a very different feel than the pastel matte. Okay, so let's talk about underpainting. Yes, pastel matte will take underpainting like nobody's business. It's great. You can just beat that paper up with watercolor, fluid acrylics, inks, dyes, alcohol, Gamsol, any of that. So it's super hardy paper, and I also love that about it. Let's see, UART, you can do alcohol underpainting. Pastel Premier, you can do alcohol and water media. Colorfix you can also use with water media and alcohol, but usually when I'm using Colorfix, I'm using a toned paper, a colored paper, like I like leaf green and burgundy and terracotta. So I'm not going to typically do as much underpainting when I'm using a toned paper, because the underpainting is serving pretty much the same purpose as the toned paper. All right, and let's see what else. What else was with that question? Is that it? I think so. But yeah, so what I would encourage with the papers is to just explore them all and try the underpaint. If you like underpainting, try underpainting on the different papers, and just, you know, find your happy place with paper. But that being said, reserve total judgment as well. Meaning, when I first started doing pastels, I used Canson paper, and I came across or purchased some Wallace paper, and I tried it, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible, I hate it, and I put it in the drawer, and in the drawer it stayed for quite a long time, maybe even a year. Pulled it out, and finally tried it, and I'm like, oh, this is it. This is really the way to go. So I no longer use any kind of Canson paper at all, or sketching paper. I do not use those. I only use a sanded surface that's going to grab onto the pastels. Now, one other paper, and I hate to do this, I really, really do, but I'm going to say that I do not like the Canson My Tints Touch. I don't like that paper. It seems like you put the pastel down and it sort of like dusts off. So that's the one that I just don't recommend, the sanded surface that I don't recommend. Everything else I think just is up for grabs. Try it. Even the, I'm not going to think of it. The one that, La Carte is the one that you can't use any water media, wet media. If it gets even a little speck of water on it, the surface kind of disintegrates. But it is a beautiful paper that you can get some really beautiful atmospheric effects with. So give that a try too. Oh, and one last thing on paper, and then I'm going to shut up, is that Dakota pastels, and I'm not trying to sell you on Dakota pastel at all, but they do have a sampler pack, which is a great way of being able to check out almost everything that's out there in a relatively inexpensive way. So I would definitely give that a go. All right, because we only use a couple kinds of papers, right? And we could have taken these assignments, say we do the pears, we could have done them on La Carte, we could have done them on UArt, we could have done them with underpaintings. We just scratched the surface of what we could do. When I did my variation series, I just dug in, because I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm going to try it. I'm going to try this paper, and I'm going to do an underpainting, and I'm going to do this kind of marks. And, so I just was exhausting all the possibilities, and it turns out you can't really exhaust them. It's just infinite. You can, you add a few variables, and you can go and go and go. So, yeah, that's what's fun about what we're doing. We're never going to get there. So that's okay. That's good. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for doing the workshop, and I hope you'll stay in touch. Let me know if you have any other questions. You can let the support team know, and we'll answer any questions. And don't feel like this is goodbye, okay? All right, see you later.